Hello, my name's Trent Sparrow. I'm the manager of the Impact Investments Program here at Wespath, and I'm happy to be joined by Johara, our Chief Investment Officer, and Sylvia, the Director of the Impact Investments Program.
Hi, Trent.
It's been a while since we've talked about our positive social purpose lending program here at Wespath, and recently Johara and Sylvia were able to tour a property that we invested in suburban Chicago. But before we jump into talking about that property tour, Sylvia, can you give us a little bit of an overview of the PSP program and talk about your experience in working in that program here at Wespath?
Sure. Thank you, Trent. So the Positive Social Purpose Lending Program, or we'll refer to it as PSP for the most of our discussion today, is focused on investing in properties that cater to populations that are low income or in need. We have also done some community development investments through the program. And then a final smaller piece focuses on microfinance investments in developing markets.
That's great. Now, Johara, I know since starting at Wespath, a big priority that you've had is diving deep into our funds and really understanding everything that we do here. And as you've kind of looked under the hood of the PSP program, what excites you or what interests you about the program and the work that we do related to that program?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, Trent. I am so excited about the PSP program. It was one of the areas that I wasn't really familiar with. And so I've spent a lot of time with both of you and John getting familiar with it. And the part that's most exciting is that Wespath really found a way to be able to obtain our risk-adjusted returns that are commensurate to the market rate, but in addition to making a huge difference in people's lives and supporting the housing crisis really here nationally, but also overall globally. So I know the importance of the work that's being done around affordable housing, and I thought it would be important for us to take a step back and share with the audience a little bit of what we learned through the Harvard study and some of the issues that we're sort of facing, and that how PSP sort of helps to make some sort of impact and difference around this housing crisis. So in reviewing the Harvard study, what we learned was over half of renters are cost burdened. And really what cost burden means is that 30% of your income, 30% or more of your income that you take home is spent on housing and utilities. And so that's difficult. And then more than 50% of Black and Hispanic renters are usually the individual groups that are cost burdened. And so I think, especially for those families living in metropolitan areas, I think the salary range that they were quoting that you need in order to be able to sort of afford the housing is around $100,000 a year. I know. So I think it's amazing to be able to create a program here internally and have us have this expertise and allow us to support this effort. It aligns with the values of the church, but in addition to our goal in meeting our risk and return objectives. So
it sounds like you're pretty excited about the program.
I am.
And so for participants in our pension funds or in our funds or our institutional investors, how do they get access to PSP or feel like they can invest in this?
So most of our institutional clients are invested in PSP through our fixed income fund, or what we also call FIF. And that's really the main way to get that exposure. But knowing that we have been so successful in this program, and really kudos to you guys, is that we've been getting a lot of requests of how can they get additional exposure to PSP. And so one of the things that I've been working with you all on is hopefully finding ways for us to expand PSP throughout other funds of ours if we can, or just find other ways to get it to our clients since it's in high demand. So more work for you guys.
Which is a good thing.
And I would just add before Trent goes to the next question is we have invested $2.1 billion in the space through the program. So again, so much success. We've just focused on so many different types of projects. They cater to so many different populations in need that the ability to be able to expand on the program is going to be impactful beyond belief to so many more. So
Great.
Yeah. And thank you, Sylvia, for leading that. I know we've talked more broadly about PSP and kind of how it ties into our funds. I'd like to transition our discussion now a little bit more focus or narrow the discussion and talk a little bit more about your recent property visit to Broadview. Before I jump and ask Johara kind of her experience at the property, Sylvia, can you tell us a little bit about the property and the populations it serves and how it's really impactful for the residents that live there?
Yeah, it was one of my favorite properties that I've visited recently, and it was a real pleasure to have Johara join us as well. But the property is Broadview Senior Apartments, so it actually focuses on providing housing to seniors and seniors with special needs. The units in the property, we have 70 units, a lot of different amenities that I'm sure Johara will chime in on in terms of her feedback on that. And then also, similar to a lot of other projects, this was a recipient of a Green Standard Award or certification. So again, it kind of represents a property that we are very proud of and a property that is typical in our portfolio, focusing on populations that really need the housing.
Thank you, Sylvia. And Johara, Sylvia and I have been doing these visits our whole careers. This, I think, was your first visit to an affordable housing property. I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts of what you experienced walking through the property, and maybe you could provide us with some of your reflections on what went through your mind as you were walking the property.
You know what? My biggest takeaway about that is really a lot of the times when I'm communicating with you all on PSP, it's really transactional. It's about the numbers and the underwriting and making sure all of the investment aspect of it is making sense. What I got to see when visiting the live property was really how amazing something that could be viewed so transactional is actually having such significant impact. The part that resonated to me was like the community that was built around that property. The property manager truly knew the names and understood all the neighbors that were in that senior living. So as we would walk around, some of the neighbors would be using some of the facilities, and she would be able to talk to them and say hello to them by name. And so I thought that was fantastic. So not only are we providing opportunities for housing, but we're also creating a community, which is really what it's all about at the end of the day. I did also loved some of the facilities and community areas where there was like the library and just sort of the property manager mentioned how they're going to add technology to help support some of the seniors and having them access the internet. And so I walked away from it more encouraged and more empowered for us to figure out more solutions that are consistent sort of with our values and in our mission. So
yeah, and I that's one thing I love about the PSP Lending Program is we're not only providing housing, we're creating communities. And these property managers, like you just described, they're incredible individuals who really focus on building relationships with residents of the properties.
Yeah, hopefully it'll have this domino effect across the board, whether it's on housing and education, et cetera.
Yeah, and so before we wrap up, just be interested, Johara or Sylvia, do you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience today?
I will just echo Johara's comments on the personal experience. That's been one of my most fulfilling pieces of doing my job is, again, it's numbers. Yes, the numbers have to work, but when you actually get to meet the people that are able to live in these units and these apartments, you just, you know that you're making a difference. So it's kind of a double line in terms of obviously making sure that this is the right kind of investment for our participants and institutional clients, but at the same time, you're making a difference to people in the community, and it's amazing. So.
And I would probably just want to close out and really talk about the reason we're so successful is really, truly your leadership, Sylvia, and your leadership, Trent, in supporting John, and that the three of you have this great expertise in-house on underwriting and how to continue to make sure this program is successful. So I think that's a skill set that's unique to Wespath, and the goal would be to continue to leverage it and hopefully do more great things this way going forward. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you for joining us today. And I think I speak for the entire Impact team when I say we're very grateful for the chance that we get to do related to our work by providing not only market rate returns, but also being impactful in the work that we do out into the communities that we work in.